Yo, what's up? It's your boy Steve. I am here with
Abeyson.
yeah. So Abeyson is one of those guys that's been with us since like the beginning days, and I'm so excited to have you on here, my dude.
I'm so honored that I get to be on a podcast that I constantly listen. I am a fan of the show. I wait for episodes to come out, and I think I listen to all of them. I think it's on my Spotify Wrap, like top podcasts. So
Oh
yeah,
dang, that's love. That's love.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, and you're also a podcaster,
Well, yes, because I love listening to podcasts and I love having conversations
right?
about different things or the things that I've been learning in life and all that stuff. So I decided to do one with one of my really good friends from Dallas. His name is Ruben.
Right,
So we started recently. I'm trying to think of how long has it been, but
right.
yeah, it was one of those things that, hey, would you want to do this? And we just jumped on a Zoom call and we just record the Zoom call and post it on YouTube,
Why
the audio.
Ruben?
So Ruben has been one of those guys that I could, like have conversations like this because, that's something I want to commend you on also because we can
Wow,
have these conversations and even just listening to the other podcasts, right? You're one of those guys who would bring out gold from people.
wow.
And I so want to honor you and commend you for doing that because not everybody can do that. I can just sit here and you would ask the right questions or you would even just like highlight things and even offline I would many times say like I could say the most randomest thing and you would like make it sound so profound and that makes me feel good. So I'm like, you know what, I should just say random things and Steve's gonna bring meaning out of it. So Ruben's one of those guys who I love talking to about just different things. We used to do that when I was in Dallas,
Right,
and now because we're in two different places, I don't know, when I thought of doing a podcast or something like this,
right.
his name was the first thing that popped into my mind. So
Mm.
I just asked him and he said yes. So
Dude, that's love. Like I know. So for me, when I think about you, Abison,
mhm.
I just like for my first interaction, you're like someone that's different. So when I say different is like I see like a confidence, like a courage to try things that other people are not doing. And so I remember even before I asked you to do stuff with me, to come and help me with just like the social media with like Spikenard and different things. You had been of course like doing stuff with Bridge. You had launched like some stuff with like, your brand, Beautiful Waste. So you're in different, like you're into like fashion, you're into like music, you're into like creative like design and all these things, right? So I just wanted to ask you, like, where is like that like passion come from? Is it from like friends growing up? Has it always been in you? Did you develop that in the States or when you were here in India? Like, what was that like?
So I guess every one of those things has like a different starting story, but
Yeah.
I feel like God always creates each one of us in a very unique way, right?
Mm,
And like some people would look at something and see a whole new thing that many people would not.
yeah.
And I guess just that's just how God has created us with different interests.
Right.
For me, even to look at design and like I'm very particular about like if I don't like something, I'm not going to be like trying to correct everybody. I try not to, at least.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I saw myself noticing things that many people might not. And I
Mm,
guess that's just how God has created each one of us, with
right.
different
Right.
skills, different interests, different eye for things and stuff like that. So I'm just grateful that I actually get to be involved in
Right.
doing things with the things that God has created me with fashion and with music. And even though I'm not like big name yet, I'm glad that I still have the opportunity and the avenues to just test it out and see if this is something that God has put on my heart. So
Right. Dude, so I actually wanted to just kind of break it down a little bit. Like for me, fashion is like one of those things that a lot of people, it's not like a lot of people or meet are into fashion. Like maybe people who dress well, but for you, you are like on this journey. Some people might not know this, but you're on this journey to kind of like really study fashion, to study what it's like to kind of curate spaces and like what that looks like for when someone walks into a room, how they look, how they present themselves, and create something that people would feel comfortable wearing. Some of these language that you've been building around, your brand. I wanted to kind of like share about that a little bit, about your passion for fashion and your passion for quality. Like, is it something that, did you have a mentor? Did you have someone that impacted you, or you saw someone dress nice? Like, even wearing the hat, right? Like, that's something that people know you for. Like, and it takes confidence to rock it, right? Because people probably have roasted you for it. So actually, yeah, tell us, do people roast you about it? What do people say when they see you?
I don't think I've ever had anybody come roast me about the hat. Actually,
Yeah.
people say if anybody could pull it off, it would be you, and
Right,
I
right.
take that as a compliment. So,
Come on.
yeah. So when I look back into fashion, right, it's never been one of those things that I've noticed. I'm very big on being intentional.
Mm,
I feel like anything that we do, we just don't do. We have a deep meaning behind the things that we do and stuff like that. And maybe not all in the area of the same area, what I mean. So for me it could be the choice of clothing that I wear and why I wear it, but for you it could be something else, like why you choose to use a particular software or a camera to record than this one. So you're intentional about different things, and for somehow it just happened to be one of those things where I'm intentional of the things that I choose to wear.
right,
And
right,
many times I've not really seen what I wanted to wear out in the world. Like I could not just go into a shop and I'm like, oh, I like that or something.
right, right.
I am a very bad shopper.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I never would have guessed that,
I'm a
bro.
very bad shopper. Like if somebody's coming with me to shop, they would really get annoyed, because for me, if I walk into a shop,
Mm,
something has to really catch my eye and then only I will buy. Like I cannot just like look for things and try
mm,
things on. I'm very bad at doing that. So, like intentionality and I don't know, like that eye for things. I want to say it originated somewhere, because when I look back into my life, right, when I was a
right,
young kid, I don't know if I really cared so much. But
right.
funny thing is, when you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the hat, right, I remember seeing a picture of myself in my grandparents house. It
Mm,
was a picture of my grandparents and all our cousins,
mm.
and out of all my cousins I was the only guy wearing a hat when I was a
Wow.
little kid, like 5 years old. And
Wow.
I didn't even know. It was just one of those things that, you could definitely spot me out, because I was that kid who did not look like the rest of my cousins in my outfit.
Right,
And I don't know how that started. It's weird. I guess I just had this
right.
thing of being different and knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because many
Mm,
people see me just wear black clothes all the time,
right.
but many people just don't. I don't know, maybe people never really thought of it so much, but for me, I even have a reason why I wear black clothes most of the time.
Really?
Yeah, do you want to know?
Yeah.
So in a world full of people wearing different colors and all that,
Mm,
the thing that makes me stand out is me not wearing what everybody else is doing. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, no,
Okay,
totally.
so a weird example.
Okay.
I don't know if that made sense completely, but you know
Mm-hmm.
how camouflage is used to hide
Right,
in battlefield?
right,
But the same camouflage put in a regular situation, it's not hiding, it's actually making the person stand out.
right,
Do you see
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So black is something that is used to be subtle,
Mm,
but in a world full of people who want to pop in color and pop in doing these things,
mm.
the one person who's wearing all black is actually standing out more than being subtle.
Whoa. Dog, did you think about this, or it just came off the dome?
No,
Like,
no, that was one of my silly, like it sounds silly when I say it out loud, because I know not a lot of people think about that.
right.
But then I do. And I
No,
don't
I
know
mean,
why I do that. I don't
that
know why I
imagery is
think of stuff
nice.
like that.
That imagery is nice. I mean, honestly, a lot of people, because we've been talking, just doing a series on Loki Sochenge, right? And that's kind of the series we've been trying to bring up some of these topics. And I mean, honestly, one of the first things you realize about someone is how they dress,
Hmm.
how they present themselves. People say, "Oh, they look at your shoes, they look at your outfit," and I think it's like a place of insecurity for a lot of people. I mean, we have to talk about that since you're passionate about clothes, fashion, and presentation. I think when I first related to clothing, if I'm being honest with you, it
Mhm.
had to do with class.
Okay.
It had to do with am I going to look poor? Am I going to look rich? Am I going to look cool
Mm.
for the girls? Or am I going to look cool for whoever? Right.
Mm.
And at least growing up in Africa, like at least in Kenya when we're there, it was this thing every Christmas, right? People would get new clothes and you have
Mm-hmm.
to wear, I don't know if you guys,
Yeah,
people here do it,
they do
or
that in India too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you had to show up at Christmas with your new clothes.
Yeah.
And that's when you really got to know how rich your family is or how poor you really is. So to me, I haven't really processed this thought, but like as we're talking about this, even like Lok Yakaheng, I mean, it's something that we all grow up in this place of insecurity. But when I think about fashion, something you're really, passionate about, I think about this also like negative aspect that can be used to almost like bring people into a place of like, oh man, you don't belong because you don't
Mm.
dress like this, you don't wear like this, you don't have the, like, do you think about these things like as you try to build your brand and your value system for your brand? Like, are you conscious about these things? Have you thought about some of these language?
Yeah. So, when you described about something that you're wearing, you said so much about how are people going to perceive me based on
Yeah,
what I'm wearing.
yeah,
I am a big proponent of doing the opposite.
right,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Like,
okay,
I don't want to wear something thinking, what are people going to say if I wear this or don't wear this? I want to wear this because I like it.
okay,
And, it's like that brings like a whole different level of confidence. Even
mm,
like, I like this.
yeah,
And if people don't accept it, I still like this.
yeah,
And it kind of goes back into whole lokya kahenge. Like when you keep thinking of what are people gonna say, you will never, like be happy with the choices that you're making.
mm,
May it be fashion, may it be anything else in life, you know.
mm,
But then at the same time, I get the whole point of being belonged and feeling belonged and all that stuff.
mm,
Uh, but then that should not come at the expense of you killing your individuality of how God has created you to be.
yeah, wow,
You know, He
mm,
has created. So that's one of the reasons I love being even in my church right now. Man, like, I love that I get to wear ripped jeans and a hat and lead worship.
mm,
It's not that other people who are not doing that are wrong.
right,
It's just that the fact that I had ripped jeans on wouldn't let other people worship. I'm
mm,
like, really? Is it that much of a bother
mm,
that, you know, like what I'm doing is hindering your, you know,
right.
focus to God? Like, does that make sense?
No, I mean it's real. I think honestly there's so much fighting.
Yeah.
There's so much. That's why I say when it comes to fashion, it's not. It can be like a fun topic. I think the more I don't want to say liberal. Like I'm maybe more open minded.
Mm,
But a lot of people, when you think even about women, right? When it comes to the modesty issue,
mm,
right? When it comes to presentation, like I remember growing up, they would say, like pretty much like dressed the way you feel like, right? Like,
mm,
or dress for success,
mm,
right? So whatever that meant, it meant like dress your best, right? And so I feel like there's this thing where some people say, hey, in the house of God, you're supposed to dress a certain way, right? And dude, I don't want to go into the nuances of things because then, people can think you're picking
right,
on them,
right, right,
because
right.
that's not the point.
That's not the point for
But
sure.
yeah, like you are asking the right questions, what? Because, bro, like I think one of the things that it's done,
Mm-hmm,
even like the dress your best thing, even like growing up in Africa and sometimes in its other spaces,
mm-hmm,
I think America's a little bit liberal about dress,
mm-hmm,
but in some of these conservative nations, Christianity wise, like
mm-hmm,
I think it does hinder, even in the States, it does hinder poor people coming into a church and feeling comfortable
mm-hmm,
because we've made everything so much about dress. Like I
mm-hmm,
understand about modesty and about presenting yourself, but
mm-hmm,
I think if you can afford a certain level of something, it does hinder because people are trying to fit in, right?
mm-hmm,
And the first thing people look is the physical
mm-hmm.
before they hear you talk.
Right.
They've already made a judgment.
Mm.
by the shirt, the brand, or whatever I see on Abeyson, the way he's groomed, what his standing in
Mm-hmm.
society, what's his background financially.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's real.
It is real. It is real. So I completely agree with the whole modesty thing of, my judgment for modesty is if you're wearing something and would Jesus be okay with that?
Mm,
And that comes down to your relationship with Jesus. If you
mm,
see Jesus as one of those people that you visit on a Sunday, many people, whenever I did not conform to the norms of the church or something, like many people would say, "Oh, would you go in front of the president like this?" I'm
mm,
like, I don't see Jesus as my president. I see him as my father.
mm.
Like I don't have a relationship with the president that I do with my, with Jesus.
Yo,
Like,
that is a line right there. That is a quote.
so it all comes down to your relationship with Jesus, and your
Mm,
level of modesty comes down to, if I'm wearing with Jesus, would he be happy about it?
mm,
Or is this something that, you'd like, would he be, like, oh man, my son is, or my daughter is carrying himself or herself in a way that, she or he could have done better, like, is that what he's thinking? Or is he like, oh man, I love your fit, like that's how
right.
I imagine Jesus talking to me, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm,
that is, so it all depends on your relationship with Jesus. It's funny that you would never put your relationship with Jesus and how you dress in the same thing,
right.
but it matters.
Yeah.
Okay, it's funny that Playboy is a big brand in India. Have you seen people just wearing like random Playboy t-shirts?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like you're okay with that? Like, so
Mm,
people don't even know what it is. They don't, they're not intentional, and they're just doing whatever it is. So it is, I feel like it is very intentional of you knowing what you're doing, even
right.
even in the very basic, very everyday thing, like wearing clothes.
Yeah.
All of us wear clothes
Right.
every day,
Right.
you know
Right.
but are we intentional in that? It
Right.
comes down to like even being modest.
Mm,
Like, are we intentional in dressing ourselves where Jesus is going to be happy with us?
mm,
That's I cannot answer that question for you. That question is something that's between you and Jesus.
yeah.
It's based on
Yeah.
your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. And this year, like, we're really, at least for me, I've been thinking a lot about the Lokia Kahenge Lokia Sochenge thing, like, where it's really like, to me, I'm going to the Sochenge, like, people, how people think, right? Because it all starts here. Everything starts at the mind. And when we renew our mind, when we change our mind, then even being willing to say, hey, I'm willing to be challenged, right? In the way I think, and to be open minded to see how other people think, and why you dress the way you dress, or even learn from you, learn from others. I think that's like a key thing. And so for you, when you're thinking, because I think as a designer, just when we're talking basic level designer
Yeah.
creativity, you're a thought leader on how people think.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I mean, unless you don't have a good team or you're not like a strategist, like, most people who are designers, whether fashion designers, whether graphic designers, whatever, you're creating language at basic level and saying, hey, I want, just like what you said about black, right? So the thing is, like, I'll never forget that statement. The camouflage, like that whole picture, right? What, as far as like conversations with the Lord, or with your team, or with your wife, or just as you're developing your brand, Beautiful Waste, all these things, what are you thinking about? What kind of language, what kind of conversations are you trying to start in communities?
I just want, I think the biggest thing for me is to be intentional in your clothing choices.
Okay.
Wearing something that you're comfortable, wearing something that you would be proud of, wearing something that you actually believe in.
Okay.
Like people just wear random stuff like PlayStation. I'm like, yeah, maybe you play PlayStation, but are you like really such a big fan where, you're like repping the, I'm not, no knock against PlayStation.
Right.
I mean, it's great. But just being intentional of the things that you do, even when it comes to clothing. Does that,
Yeah.
I like hearing me say this out loud feels like like people actually have to do that? Because I've not really heard a lot of people talk about this, or
Yeah,
you
and I
know.
think because it's like a sensitive place,
Mm,
because clothes are used sometimes to flaunt. Like I remember, I mean, let's talk about even accessories, right?
mm,
So I remember I was in Uganda and there was this girl. She was a stewardess. Like, well, she was like a front desk, at the hotel I was staying in, and she talked about, here when people get an iPhone, they don't hold it like normal phones. They
mm,
hold it like this so you can see their
mm,
Apple. Like they change how they hold it. Like when they get clear cases, so you hold it like this, so they got an iPhone. So, but it was kind of like that whole thing of she was so funny, dude.
yeah,
And but she was comfortable having this conversation with me.
yeah,
But it is true when we're young, and not even a young,
mm,
cultural wise, accessories, because we accessorize ourselves, right?
hmm.
The watch I have, the clothes I have, the brand, it really does sometimes put a value to people,
But is
right?
that a good thing though?
That's the thing. I mean, bro,
It shows a heart.
right. But I'm just talking about reality.
Mm.
Reality, we can't escape a reality, right? And I'm asking you, like, have you thought about that? Like, how do you, so for instance, if someone is poor, they don't have, maybe the PlayStation shirt is all they have. How do you encourage that person to be intentional? I believe intentionality is like really important. And so how do you encourage that person to be more intentional in their choices?
Yeah, I mean, if that is all you have, wear it proud and loud.
Yeah.
If that is all you have, wear it proud and loud. But when you have the opportunity to
Right.
go buy something,
Right.
don't just buy anything you know, for the sake of it's cool.
Yeah.
Going back to that whole thing, I'm like, oh, if I wear this, everybody's gonna think I'm like, do
Mm,
you like it?
yeah.
Do you like it, or are you just buying it because everybody else thinks it's cool?
Mm,
I love, like, I love thrift shopping.
yeah.
I know they don't do that much in India because wearing other people's clothes is like, why you
Taboo.
wear? Yeah, it's like, why you wearing other
You a
people's old
beggar?
clothes? Yeah,
Right.
but I love thrift shopping because there were some really cool things that I would not really find in, like, like stuff
In major stores.
in
Like even
major.
especially
uh,
like old stuff,
yeah, and also, like, the stuff that I want would be too pricey.
Yeah.
And when I go to thrift shop, I'm like, oh, somebody bought it, they wore it for a season, they're done with it. Because
Right.
there are some thrift shops that actually, like, sell good stuff, but for
Right.
half the price because somebody actually wore it.
Right.
So it's like, even my thought process, like, I don't know, I guess maybe because I've not really heard a lot of people talk about it, me talking about something like this feels like it's not even a big deal, dude. But I guess
Yeah.
it is for me, so I'm
No, no,
talking about it.
no. The thing is, bro, culture. The way I put culture,
Mm,
culture is like air. Culture is like water, like for fish. Like it's like we're all surrounded by it. It's
mm,
just we can't put like a hand onto it.
mm,
Like when you're in America, there's a certain way you act because you just know it's like you're in that kind of space, like culturally, like you're supposed to act a certain way and you play the role,
mhm.
and vice versa in India or in different cities or in different rooms. And so, and to change culture is like difficult, like meaning like you have to. It's subtle, but it can be done, right? And so for me, what I'm thinking about right now is like, okay, clothes, a big fashion thing. So for me, I love that you're going into it, that
Yeah.
you're trying to start these conversations.
It's funny to me because that's something that all of us do
Right.
every day.
It's a big industry.
It's a big
It's like
industry.
like billions and billions of dollars. Like because clothes, we need clothes. Everyone needs clothes. It's
Right.
like a hospital. We'll never go out of business. Making clothes, we'll never go out of business. We need
Right.
clothes.
But then how intentional are we in one of that very basic, very everyday thing?
Right.
That's my whole thing going into what I'm doing is, like, for me, my faith in Jesus is such a big part of who I am.
Right.
And my interest in wearing stuff that I think it's cool is also a big part of who I am.
Right.
But I've not seen those two merge in a good way.
Right.
You know, Like if I see something that aligns with my faith, it would not align with my fashion sense. Or
Mm.
if I see something that aligns with my fashion sense, it would not align with my faith.
So you're trying to cross those bridge, like you're trying to cross this bridge of these two areas.
Yeah.
So like, if as we wrap this thing up, like if there's someone listening to you,
Mm-hmm.
loves fashion, is like, Abeyson, oh my goodness, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
I love being intentional about this. I care about this, but I can't find other people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe people have called me conceited or to this or to that.
Yeah.
What would you say to them? Something that has helped you as you're on this journey. What is important to keep at the forefront for you?
Man, like keep doing what God has put on your heart to do,
Yeah.
knowing that He is the creator of all things, not just some things, not just spiritual things. He's the creator of all things.
Hmm.
The world has taken it and distorted it to whatever it wanted to be.
Right.
But like, it's funny, like even before we started the podcast, you were talking about how you heard this in today's sermon at church. It was God who designed the robes of
The Levites.
the
Yeah. Aaron.
Levites.
Yeah.
He,
Right.
he took thought
Yeah.
behind designing robe for the Levites.
Right.
God was the first designer, because when Adam and Eve decided to eat the fruit of good and evil, and then he was the one who's like, you know what, let me cover you.
Right.
And so if that is something that's on your heart,
Hmm.
I want you to know that it is not just a random thought. It's not bad for you to have those desires to make your fashion beautiful, or whatever you see it, or being intentional about it, because it comes from God.
Whoa.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe not a lot of people might understand it, or you might not have people around you who see the things the way you do. And I think in those seasons it's very important for us to just depend on God so much. And
Hmm.
as we do that, I feel like God's going to bring people into your life. Like, like right now, even the fact that I can even talk about something that
Hmm.
I've not really heard a lot of people, especially in India, talk about, you know? And I can do that because there's a person like you who's like asking these questions.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for my wife, who's so supportive in the things that I'm doing. She's like, why are you wasting it? She's not like that. She's like, I see your heart. I see your intentionality behind. I see what you're trying to do, and let's
Hmm.
do this. Let's do. I mean, we both don't know how this is how the brand is going to be. We both don't know, what it's going to turn out like. But I'm glad that I have people in my life. But
Right.
there was also a season where I did not have people in my life, and that really, in a way, made me look to God so much more,
Yeah.
to give me wisdom, to give me direction. So yeah, keep just know that every desire, if you are in Christ, every desire that you have, it's from God.
Hmm.
It is not like something the world. Many times we separate the worldly things and godly. I believe everything originated from God. The world just basically, Satan can only distort. He doesn't create.
Right.
God creates, Satan distorts what he has created.
Hmm.
So let's redeem it back. May it be fashion, may it be food. Many people don't are not so intentional about food, and that's such
Right.
a big area of life, because you have that every day.
Right. No, it's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really loved what you had to say, man. And I know a lot of people definitely will find this helpful, especially as we are trying to change like the way we think about stuff, and to be open, especially as believers, to think like, hey, this intentionality, because honestly, I'm guilty. Sometimes I'm not as intentional, of like the spaces I'm walking in, and what I'm bringing to the table, and sometimes looking too much to, I guess, like, okay, like whatever is cheap, whatever is just like whatever is there, not being really thoughtful and mindful, because
Mm,
presentation is huge. And even if we're talking about like how we present ourselves, and how even finding that acceptance, no, even acceptance because of our identity.
mhm,
But I feel like when you walk into a room, like just like, when you have like I say, education or like a qualification, it allows you to sit at the table.
mm,
There's like, I think the way you dress or the way you present yourself, it can afford you like a place at a table.
mm,
And so I'm really grateful that there's people like you who
Yeah.
actually are creating language and are
Yeah.
being an example of courage for those who want to go into this, you know.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And I just want to remind whoever's listening, they might not be thinking, I'm like, oh man, I've never really been intentional about my clothing. And like when you were saying that, right? I was
Yeah.
just thinking there could be people like that, but at the same time, we're all majorly intentional about different things in our lives. But when we hear stuff like this, maybe it can start, something in your mind. Because, for example, like I might not be as intentional about music production as Sam would, I might not be as intentional about like cameras and recording like you would, like this podcast stuff. I'm intentional about different things, but being around you guys, seeing what you guys do, being around Sam and seeing the intentionality that goes behind how he produces, like would inspire me to be intentional, in whatever that is that I'm doing, or even in the area of music, like
Right.
after listening to Brit songs, there are like so many other songs. I'm like, oh man, they should do this, and
Right.
all these different. It inspires each other.
Right.
I hope
Right.
that this conversation is not putting you down because you're not doing the same thing that I'm doing, but
Right.
I hope that it inspires you to just start thinking or being more intentional about something that we do every day.
Right. No, that's good, man. I appreciate you saying that because I know it's a place like, our friend, Pranay came in earlier
Right.
and he was looking really good,
Mm.
you know? And, Abdullah was like, man, you look really good,
Yeah.
Like there's like something that when you walk into the room
Right.
and you're dressed a certain way, you command respect, you command attention. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And clothes do matter. Like,
Mm.
and I think sometimes if we're not intentional, it's easy to forget that it does matter how we dress.
Mm.
But when someone amongst us dresses a certain way, we're like, whoa. Like when you're talking, I want to pay attention. Like, oh, who are you?
Mm.
There's questions that people start asking, right? And yeah, I appreciate you going there because even though it's like a sensitive, some people don't think. See, the thing is, we avoid thinking about these things, but at the same time, like I said, it's like $1 billion industry, billions and billions.
And it's very rare that you see people who are strong believers in that industry.
Yeah, no, very true. But yeah, man, no, I appreciate you, man. Like, so if someone wants to like link up with you, collab with you, or has like other people that they think you would like, you think like,
Yeah.
where can they catch you? Where can they find you?
At Beautiful Waste 2020 on Instagram. I think
That's
that would
right.
be the best way because we're living in a very direct message Instagram world. So
That's true.
yeah, at the rate at whatever you call that thing, Beautiful Waste
Yeah.
2020.
Come on, you heard the man. So thank you, Abeyson, for being on the pod, and I'm excited for your journey, bro. Honestly, this is something that is unique to you that a lot of people are not doing, and you're
Yeah.
jumping into something that is challenging, but at the same time worth it because we need people like that. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much for even wanting me to be on the podcast. Like I said in the beginning, right? I'm a fan. I listen to it and I
Yeah,
love that. uh Even though I listen to it on a, like, I'd listen to other podcasts also,
yeah,
but I love that it's more than just something that I listen to, but we get to be friends in real life and do this life together. And
yeah.
thank you for seeing the gold in me
Oh dang,
and
dude, you're gonna
bringing
make me cry, bro.
bringing that out, and even giving me this opportunity to talk about something that most people might not.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so thank you for doing that.
yeah,
Sometimes even when I'm talking, I think like, is this something that would even benefit people? But I guess that's my
yeah,
own self-doubt. but
yeah,
but seeing you giving me a platform to do this
yeah,
shows that, okay, there are people who want to hear a perspective like this. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, bro, it only takes one line.
Mm.
Like to me, my takeaway from this podcast is that line you talked about, the camouflage
Mm.
and the black, like the reason, right? I was at the Outcast thing, graduation, and Ricky was saying the reason they had blue and green as the colors for the graduation was because the earth, when you look at it, it's like blue and green.
Wow. So
Just
I love people like that who are intentional about
right,
the little things that they choose.
right. Colors matter.
Yeah.
Colors matter, and not all of us. See, the thing is, you are a designer by just like the way God has created you. When I look at everything you do, you touch, it's very curated very well. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about you and admire about you, and you bring into a room. You have strong opinions about these things where I don't have strong opinions about them. So when we have people like you, you're able to bring beauty, strength to teams, to organizations. And honestly, it's not something that I think a lot about, honestly, but because like even my fiance is like that. She's annoyingly like, this is what I want. These are the colors. This is like this. Where I'm like, I don't know. I'm always questioning. I'm like, I just want a piece of paper with this. So I appreciate you, man. Honestly, I think we underestimate the power of how these colors make us feel. The way when I'm wearing something comfy,
Yeah.
we have clothes for different, there's like clothes to sleep in, like the intentionality. See, the thing is, someone had to say, hey, this is the material we're going to use for this.
Mm,
There's a designer that came up with the concepts and the designs and all these things.
right.
So there's people like you, right? You're like a fashion designer. You're trying to like craft these things. You're trying to build products, and you're tasting different products. You're still learning about it.
Yeah.
So that people at the end of the day, they might not think about it, but you did all the thinking for them, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this platform. I know you were trying to close it a while ago, but we just
No,
kept
no, it's all
talking.
good, man. This
But
is
I like
family.
talking with you. So
Yeah, this is fam, man. The thing is, if they're gone, they're gone. If they're here, they're here. But yeah, man, thank you so much.
if you're still here, thank you.
Yeah, no, they're still here, man. Actually, maybe not. I don't know. See, the good thing about podcasts, you put it on and you just kind of leave it.
Right.
And you go for a run. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah.
And you just hear them out. Sometimes you like the thing about podcasts, you can like literally leave,
Right.
check out, and then something happens and you're like, boom, I checked back in.
Yeah, there were like moments in the podcast that you did with Prakriti. I just kept it on. I was doing something. I was like, wait, what did she say?
Right.
What did they talk about? Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like it's like sitting in a room and listening to two people talk.
Yeah.
And you can check in and check out.
Right.
But the thing about podcasts, you can rewind and go back. So
yeah. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man. All right, man.
Love you, man. Take care.
Love you guys.